To introduce your speakers today, you have myself and Dan Deneen. We are both account managers. I actually started on the sales side. Dan was on the technical side. He's been with Ontech for about 10 years now. I've been here going on actually 4 years this week. So there are a little couple fast facts about us. I have a daughter that's going to be due within the hour, possibly. I may have to leave if I get a call from my wife if she is at the hospital and going to labor. So I'm hoping that I don't get a text or a call during this. Otherwise, Dan can fill in for me. Dan's married with 2 kids. I am a karaoke star. I like singing. People at Ontech know that. They've seen me sing. And Dan is a collector of sorts, collects comics, baseball cards, you name it, he collects it. And then the big thing that differentiates me and Dan is that we support different teams. I'm a Bears fan. He's a Packers fan. It keeps our relationship spicy. We're constantly throwing jabs at each other, him more so. But yeah, that's a couple fast facts about us. So today we are going to be talking about what a vulnerability is, what to do about them, some case studies and trends that we're seeing in the world today, the types of assessments that we can do to find these vulnerabilities. There's a couple different ways you can do it. There's a network scan, which is basically a one-time, assessment looking at your network. That can actually be broken up into an external scan and an internal scan, but we'll get into that in a little bit. VMOS, which stands for Vulnerability Management as a Service, that's more of a recurring scan of the network. And then penetration testing is basically when you feel like your network is totally buttoned up and ready to go. Penetration testing is like the active, trying to break in and trying to find vulnerabilities. That's more of like a third-party thing. So then we'll talk about some benefits of why this is important and a conclusion with a giveaway. You may have heard about the giveaway. We're going to be giving away a free external scan to some lucky member of our audience today at the end of the presentation. So you got to be present to receive that. So stick around and you may be our lucky winner.
Thanks
Dan?
for the intro, Dave. Again, my name is Dan, technical account manager at Ontech as well. Dave kind of did a lot of the talking in the beginning, but I'm going to go over a little bit what are vulnerabilities. There are different types of vulnerabilities that are found in your network, whether it's hardware based, software based, or even a process, right? So some of the most common vulnerabilities that we see would be outdated software. So that would be Windows operating systems, that could be unpatched, say Microsoft Office or Adobe or commonly used programs that go unpatched, that have vulnerabilities in them. Firewalls or router misconfigurations. So this would be firewalls are usually on the perimeter of a company's network, and there are updates and patches that go into the firewalls, but there's also rules in those firewalls that tell where traffic should go, right? So whether it's internal or external, there can be misconfigurations within that piece. Weak passwords is a big one, right? So most businesses do have password policies, and it's definitely a recommendation that we have that everyone has a password policy, whether it's for your computer or it's for email. But that's a big one there. Unsecured Wi-Fi. If you've ever gone to, say, a hotel or maybe a sporting event or something, you'll see a lot of places like that have open Wi-Fi. So open Wi-Fi is a big vector for attacks and risk, putting yourself at risk by connecting to those types of unsecured access points. Social engineering, that's a big one. That could be through phishing in your email. That could be through fake phone calls that you would receive at work for someone pretending to be someone that they're not. So social engineering is probably the most widely used exploit, especially when it comes to email. And then insider threats. So this would be someone on the inside. Maybe there's a disgruntled employee or someone who's, working for someone else or plans on leaving. I mean, insider threats, another less common scene, but it can definitely happen. So Ontech does offer different packages to help with security and vulnerabilities. So you may be familiar that we have some agents on computers that do the patching and the updates and the antivirus. Unfortunately, though, our agents don't see everything. We do try to catch as much as we can, but it's impossible to catch everything that could potentially go on in a network. And that's really where the assessments come into play, because they're looking at places that we can't always see and monitor 24/7.
Hey, Dan, you mentioned that social engineering is the most widely used.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I really think it's because of email, right? So everyone uses email, and that's why security in email is so important. I mean, it's easy to spoof someone to say, "Hey, I'm Joe, you're the president of the company, go buy me gift cards," right? I mean, there's vulnerabilities within that we hear a lot about, even in the news and the media.
Yeah, the thing that I usually tell my clients is that you can have the best network, all the best security tools in place, but if your employees are not trained on how to respond and act in social engineering attempts, then you're dead in the water. The employees typically are the weakest link in a network, because they click on stuff they're not supposed to, they fall for things they're not supposed to. And Ontech is, we have those programs through our security awareness training that we send out. Every client have clicked on our emails. There's some employee at every client that does it. Even the Ontech employees fall for our phishing emails. So nobody's perfect. Nobody is going to catch them every time. But yeah, that training is super important. So those first four, like the outdated software, firewall, router misconfiguration, weak passwords, unsecured Wi-Fi, those are all things that would be caught by an assessment, because it's scanning the network. The last two, social engineering and insider threats, wouldn't be typically found in a vulnerability assessment. However, there are certain packages within penetration testing that can be tested. So we'll get into that in a little bit later too.
Yeah, and a lot of the trends that we see, directly correlate to where the vulnerabilities are, right? So we talked about unpatched software. That's why it's a big push when you hear about, Windows 10 becoming end of life here next October and getting to Windows 11. We want to do that because, come that time, that October timeline, Microsoft won't be patching those operating systems. So then we would have unsupported, unpatched operating systems that attackers try to target, because they know that people aren't going to jump from Windows 10 to 11, right? So unpatched software is a big one. VPN vulnerabilities. This we saw a really big uptick during COVID time. VPN access allows you to work remotely and connect into your work network over a VPN and access resources there. It's really important now, and it's a really big recommendation to secure any VPN access with multi-factor authentication. So VPN is definitely trending. So securing that is very important. Supply chain attacks is another one. That would be getting in through like a third-party vendor. Maybe you and your IT department know, the inner workings of how you process things and how you work, but then that could be, a partner of yours that you may not know as much. So supply chain attacks are important to know who all has access in your network and what access are they using and leveraging to gain that, and how is that secured. So that's very important. IoT, maybe not as prevalent in business, but IoT would be items like your Amazon Alexa device at your house, or a smart thermostat, or anything that would be considered, a smart piece of equipment. They are becoming more and more common. A lot of houses are now integrating fully into that, and businesses are kind of jumping over to that too. Phishing, stolen credentials, those are, again, through email is very common. Stolen credentials, we always say don't write things down, don't store it under your keyboard. Someone could pick it up and walk away with it. So that's big there. And then ransomware. Ransomware would be a malicious actor coming in, through maybe a phishing attempt or a clicked link that's bad and sitting in your network and then taking it hostage. And what's tough with ransomware is that it can sit there and be dormant for months at a time and no one knows anything. And then all of a sudden it'll have a date that'll kick off and kind of start wreaking havoc in the network. And the importance of the vulnerability assessment is that it looks for all of these different items, right? So when we're doing a vulnerability scan or you're using some other platform like vulnerability management, it's going to track a lot of these categories for you. The unpatched software, it's going to look for loopholes within your environment for maybe things open to the external world. So there is a big benefit in running those baseline vulnerability assessments.
Couple case studies that we wanted to share with you guys, and Dan already touched on some of these a lot, but there was a casino that had a hack happen to them. Attackers gained access through a smart thermometer in a fish tank, which just sounds ridiculous. I blame the fish, to be honest, but that's crazy. Like, the IT guy is probably just kicking himself that he didn't think about that. But so that smart thermometer in the fish tank, that just went overlooked, but there's probably some software or even the firmware that had to be updated, and nobody did it. So an attacker found that it was an exploit. They got in through that smart thermometer and then moved laterally throughout the network and wreaked havoc. The next one is going back to more so personal. Like at your home, you might have that Ring doorbell, or even that Amazon Alexa. At my house, we just installed like a Nanit baby camera, and the Ring actually had a few years ago an issue where attackers were remoting into people's Ring devices, so they were actually able to see through the camera. Same thing happened with the baby monitors back in the day. Wasn't the Nanit, I don't think, but the attackers are able to find these unsupported devices, even in homes, and break into them. Target had a pretty big hack years ago, like Dan mentioned, through a third-party vendor. It was an HVAC vendor that they were working with. So like if you have like a Sage vendor that you work with, or maybe QuickBooks, and they have access into your stuff, that you're at risk because of them, basically, that by proxy. If they were to get hacked, then that attacker can actually get through to you through that vendor. So what happened there was the attackers then installed malware on the POS systems of Target and were able to steal credit card info of millions of customers. Lastly, we had Equifax. I think a lot of people remember this from a few years ago, but attackers were able to gain access to personal identifiable information. I think social security numbers was the biggest thing, of 147 million people. And that was all because of an unpatched vulnerability on a software. We're going to get into the types of assessments that Ontech can offer. First one being the network scan that I talked about at the beginning. So this is really a one-time assessment. We recommend doing it once every year or two. You'll probably hear your insurance company ask about them also. And what that does is it scans the internal IPs and the external IPs. So they are two separate things. As I mentioned, we are going to be offering an external scan at the end of this presentation. But if you want a really full assessment of your network, it's probably best to do both, an internal and an external. And Dan, could you quickly explain to some people in here that might not be totally IT literate what an IP is?
Sure. So
What that means?
You're talking about two different kinds of IP addresses, right? External and internal. So external IP addresses will be assigned to your business from your internet service provider, and they come in different packs, right? They call it, you can get a single IP, you can get packs of 3, of 5, of 10, they go up from there. But in most instances, they're IP addresses that will not change with time, and they're assigned to things like your firewall, or you may have a security system that needs an IP address to assign to it so that you can access it externally. So there's a lot of different uses for that in those external IP addresses, but they're really just given to you from your ISP. They don't change, and they make you able to access everything externally to the internal. Internal IP addresses, again, same type of the way they perform, but you'll have like a local area network. If you've ever heard anyone talk about a LAN, that's a set of IP addresses that's local to, say, your computers, right? And they can be assigned to computers and laptops and printers and things like that. Phone systems would use internal IP addresses, Wi-Fi, really anything that's on the inside of the network or connected together would be on that internal IP scheme.
Sure.
Yep.
We do have a question from Pam, because Dan, you mentioned something about passwords.
Yep.
Pam had a question about how do you suggest we save our passwords? And Pam, I'll definitely follow up with you on this. But the best thing that we would recommend is having a password manager vault. It's not good to save them on your phone in plain text. It's not good to write them down because they people can see them. The great thing about a password manager, we use LastPass at Ontech. But the great thing about those is that it'll store all of your passwords in one spot. It'll tell you if you're reusing the same password on any two websites or applications. And then it'll also tell you if one of those passwords has been leaked online. So, one of the products that we have in our Ontech bundle is the identity monitoring or dark web domain monitoring. So if you're enrolled in that, your business email is being monitored by us. So let's say your Facebook were to be leaked, your credentials. If you use your business email, we would get notified of that. And then at that point, you just have to change your password. There's really nothing you can do once it's leaked online. But I use that from a personal standpoint too, for my own personal email. But from a business standpoint, my credentials are being monitored by our bundle.
Yeah, not to go off on a tangent too much, Dave, but that LastPass you talked about, there's a business side and a personal side, right? So you can use it for business credentials, right? If there's shared credentials within the business that multiple people have access to, but then there's also a personal aspect side to it that you get to use personally and you can take with you. If you were to change jobs or go somewhere else, you're able to get that vault and take it with you. And no one else, even the administrator of the LastPass, has access to an individual's personal vault.
Right.
Yeah.
You want to talk about VMOS, Dan?
Yeah. So VMOS, Dave hit on it a little bit earlier, stands for Vulnerability Management as a Service, right? So this is a platform that has a dashboard, and what makes that dashboard work is there's an agent that gets installed on every single endpoint. So computers, servers, laptops, they all get agents installed on them. And what that agent is doing is talking to that dashboard and compiling a list of continued what they consider to be vulnerabilities. And if we go back up to our types of vulnerabilities, that would be software, that could be firmware, that could be patching needed in terms on switches or firewalls. They scan 24/7, so it's continually scanning, continually looking at these machines for these vulnerabilities. So we do have the ability to set the agents to attempt to fix or patch vulnerabilities automatically, but we also have the option to do it, manually. So you can decide to go through and whitelist, which means approve, or blacklist, which means block certain updates and patches at will. You do get a report of this each month, so it would send your IT champion or whoever you designate to be the report receiver reports on that. The platform will also give you kind of a hierarchy of how they should be patched, whether it's high level. It finds a vulnerability, say in Adobe, that has a known exploit that attackers are trying to gain access to. So it would give you that as a really high risk, right? So you can kind of prioritize what within your network you need to patch up and how soon it should be done. So there's like high level, medium, and low level. A lot of times low level items in the platform can't really be patched. Say you have a phone system that's using a port on your firewall to talk outside to pass phone traffic. We can't really secure that up. Yes, does it show up as a vulnerability? Sure, but an attacker can't gain access through that port to anything other than that phone system, right? So there are some items that we can't really patch without affecting things or stopping a service from working.
Yeah, something we have a few clients at Ontech that use the VMOS platform, and a common one that I see a lot, Adobe, like you mentioned, is a big one.
Yeah,
Zoom is also another big
yeah,
one.
yeah.
People downloaded it during COVID, and then maybe they don't use it anymore, but it's on their computer and it needs to be updated. So, and again, and that's that if someone gets into your Zoom, that might lead to them being able to access your camera. Like that's no good.
Yeah, the VMOS platform really gives you a comprehensive view of the entire IT infrastructure, right? So it gives you a dashboard view of all devices, what applications are on those, what applications need to be patched or are missing patches. It gives the ability to find that vulnerability, and then it automatically gives you a link to click on to show you where to go to get that vulnerability patched as well. So like a direct download link. There's some really nice features of the VMOS platform. We do, if you hear any of this and it sounds intriguing to you and you want to see it work, we do have demos of that platform that we can provide for you separately from this, kind of get you in, show either you or maybe you have an IT person how it works and a lot of the really added benefits of that platform.
Yeah. Before I go on to the next slide, Pam has the joke of the day that the casino story gives fishing a whole new meaning.
Haha, thing it
Very
does.
good joke, Pam.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't believe I didn't catch that. All right, so the last type of assessment is a penetration testing. So this is really like an active attempt to break into the network and see what they can get, like an ethical hacker could get away with. This is a really popular thing in the tech space. You might hear Google and Facebook. They hold these things called hackathon, where they bring in a bunch of third-party companies or even just passionate hackers to come on site and try to break into their network in like 24 hours. So, and within those 24 hours, if a hacker can find a vulnerability or break in, they usually get a pretty big cash prize or even a job at the company as someone that works on their security team. So, but again, you really would not do a penetration test until you're absolutely sure that you have all your vulnerabilities, buttoned up and consistently managed, because most likely, an ethical hacker will be able to break into something, and it's all for naught. And penetration testing is not something that Ontech does personally because we don't have a hacker on staff. We have a partner that we work with that does this, but these assessments can get pretty costly, just because of the amount of things that they can test on. And as I mentioned, the social engineering type of that wouldn't be really caught by a assessment, because the assessment's really just looking at the network infrastructure and the devices. What a pen testing can do, you can kind of do an add-on where they basically have someone either come on site or call your company and try to gain information from an employee. Again, it's all part of the scope of service. It's not like they're actually going to do anything malicious, but they want to see what they can get away with the employees. And I know this is a big thing with banks, heavily regulated industries. I think there's a guy on YouTube that will film himself going into banks and credit unions, seeing what he can get away with. He'll walk in, and if nobody stops him, he'll just see what he can do. There was one time he walked in, told some executive that he was an executive, or he was an IT guy, plugged a USB device into the guy's device and said, "All right, thank you, we're all good," and walked out. And the executive didn't ask for any credentials. He didn't really ask questions. He just assumed, okay, this is an IT guy from corporate, whatever. So that is a vulnerability. If your employees are letting any old Joe Schmo walk in on the street and plug some USB into a device, that's a big no-no. So yeah, pen testing there's a slew of different services that our partner can do, but yeah, I would say we should definitely look at vulnerability management or assessments before we get to that point.
Yeah, Dave, the pen tests aren't really just to the local network. Say you have a hosted solution somewhere, whether it be Azure or AWS or some other hosted service, as
For
long as
your
there's
website.
yep, as long as there's an external IP address, they can try to break in and see what vulnerabilities they can exploit on it. So it's not just, reserved for your local infrastructure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the nature of today is that we have so many different cloud services. Everyone, has GoDaddy hosting their website. Everyone's using some sort of cloud application. So
Yep.
hackers have there's a lot more surface area for an attacker to look at.
So I'll talk, a little bit kind of on a recap of what some of the benefits of the assessments are, and this is all of them, right? External, internal, pen testing. There are benefits, and I would say the biggest is when if it's your first, assessment, is setting a baseline. Once you get that first assessment, you get a good security baseline to see where you stand. You get to see the vulnerabilities that are there. You get to patch those vulnerabilities. So in the future, that it doesn't come back up on subsequent testing. Early detection of weakness is a big one that goes into that. Weakness could be hardware, that could be firmware, that could be software-based weaknesses. Efficient risk management, right? So when we talk about risk management, that's plays really big into that VMAS, that vulnerability management as a service platform. It's really important to mitigate the risks that are in the environment, and that dashboard pulls everything in together for you to efficiently manage that. You may have compliance and regulatory adherence, right? So whether you're PCI compliance, you may be required to do it annually or semi-annual. HIPAA is another one. So there are a lot of different compliances that would require you to perform those assessments over time. Cost and time saving, that's a big one, right? No one wants to have a ransomware attack. So the more proactive you can be in your security, the less chance you have of having a major impact to your business. And enhanced security posture. Like I said, once that assessment's done and you get to patch any of the holes, you hope that your subsequent assessments in as the years go on, have no vulnerabilities. I would always recommend, though, if you have a vulnerability assessment, say next year, and you do a major infrastructure change, say you replace servers, you have a new site, or you change firewalls, that you definitely want to do another assessment because there's been a major infrastructure change that could have things left open.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
All right. So to conclude today's call, being proactive with securing your network is of the utmost importance in today's society. I mean, the attackers now are so sophisticated. It's no longer just a kid sitting in his basement trying to break into your stuff for fun. I mean, these are straight up businesses that are going on in Russia and China, India. They're super sophisticated. They are looking for any way into, especially United States companies. We mentioned it earlier, but when you're with Ontech, you kind of just assume that we have everything covered. Well, unfortunately, that's not quite the case. The bundle agents that you do have, we update your antivirus, we update the patches that Microsoft puts out for the operating system. But after that, any other software that you might have on your device could be vulnerable. And the same thing goes with the firewall, the switches. There's some really in-depth assessments that we have to do to make sure that everything's buttoned up. We do have those different offerings to check. We have the external vulnerability scan, basically looking from the outside in. We have the internal scan of all the different applications that are on every device. Typically, we like to do those together, an external and an internal. We have VMAS, which is the more like consistently recurring agents that sit on the device to scan for these vulnerabilities. And then we have the pen test, which is really what you would do at the end of all those assessments to once and for all check and to verify that you guys are certainly safe. Or not safe, but all the vulnerabilities are taken care of. vulnerabilities are common and persistent. They are always happening. Every program, every application at some point will have a vulnerability. It depends on if that company or if you, the client, is going to see that and update it on your own. Like for instance, the Nanit that I talked about, that baby monitor that we got, I've already gotten 2 firmware updates on it since we got it like a month ago. And so, when I see that, I'm like, absolutely, yes, I don't want this device to be vulnerable whatsoever because of all the different things that have happened with, smart devices being hacked into. Even huge corporations are susceptible. I think everyone kind of knows that. It's actually more so now is even small companies are susceptible too. And these businesses, these state-funded attackers, they know that. They know that these small to mid-sized businesses in Wisconsin have money. They know that they will, they need to operate. So, if they get ransomware on their device, they might end up paying it. We obviously would never recommend you pay the ransom. We want to discourage these companies from existing, but having these types of things in place can mitigate that risk entirely. And then, as Dan mentioned, the continuous risk management is always important. VMOS is great at that because it's constantly looking at your environment as a whole to mitigate as much risk as possible. Whew! All right, Dan, we did it. We got through it, I think, just about. Any more questions that we can answer related to anything security, around security? I'll give maybe a minute or two for people to type in their answers. There should be a way for you to, or you can raise your hand and someone on our marketing team can call you out.
One thing, Dave, Pamela asked was how often they should change their passwords.
Oh, yeah.
That's really that's changed over the years. It used to be, every 3 months, every 6 months. I would say if you have a strong password, say 12 to 15 characters long that include a number, an upper and a lower, you're probably okay to do that annually. It's really going to be what your business sees that they want to set a policy on. A lot of places will say every 6 months. Microsoft recommends that if you have those strong characters, upper, lower number, and it's 15 characters, that you can do it annually. But again, you may have a compliancy requirement that would require you to do it more often than that. If you're HIPAA, they have different rules for that. So I would really look into see if there are any governance policies that you have to follow in terms of that password policy. My recommendation would be at a minimum every 6 months.
Yeah, and I think that sentiment of changing your passwords every so often really came about with the emergence of the internet, because stuff got leaked and people didn't know about it. However, now with the amount of identity monitoring that we can do, especially with the Ontech bundle, and then also, personally, actually, I'll put this in the chat. This is something that I always talk to my clients about. There's a website that you can go to check what websites have been hacked, and where your credentials have been leaked. So it's called haveibeenpwned.com. So it's owned, but with a P. So it's a video game term. So you can go to that website and plug in your email address, your business or your personal, and it'll tell you which companies with that email address have been hacked. So for instance, I did it last week, and I think it was Home Chef. Home Chef had a breach a couple years ago, and my Milwaukee Park mobile app, they both had breaches, which meant my information got leaked on the dark web because of their systems. So when I saw that, you go to those applications, you go to Home Chef, you go to your Milwaukee Park app, and just change your password. So it's a super powerful tool to know exactly when your password has been compromised. So that's haveibeenpwned.com.
I see that Razi has a question in there. So with pen testing, Razi, we need to engage our vendor. So I can, we have a simple questionnaire that I have to fill out, and then I submit it. It lists your IP addresses, what your quantity is. I submit it to them, and they come back to us. With that, it's not something that I can just throw out and give you a price on right now. I'm happy to do that, so I can follow up with you after this and get you some information on that if you'd like to see that.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. We didn't really talk about cost at all. A full assessment, like the external and internal, usually runs between $3,000 and $5,000. The VMOS tool, because it's not like a one-time, VMOS I think comes to about $7 per device per month. So you can kind of do the math on that. Like, should we do this one assessment now, and maybe again in a year or two, or do we do VMOS, which is a recurring spend of $7 per user per month? And then again, the external scan, if you want to do just an external scan, that is priced at $625, just $625. So that's a really good introductory into this type of assessment. We still would recommend doing a full assessment, but if you're looking to just get your feet wet with an external, we can certainly do that. And actually, we're about to give one away for free right now. Quickly, just thank you guys for joining today. If you have any more questions, you can reach out to myself or Dan. Our emails are listed. It was great talking with you guys. I wish we could have made it more conversational. Hopefully, these webinars that we're going to be doing throughout the year, we'll do more like lunch and learn series, like on site at Ontech. They're a lot more fun. They're a lot more engaging. But today we just did a webinar. All right, it's time. It's time for a giveaway. Who's ready? Raise your hand if you're ready.
Do you have all the names updated for everyone who's in here?
Yeah, I do. All right, so let me share my screen. All right, can you all see this? I believe you can. So I have everyone's name over here. You have to, as I mentioned, you have to be present. You guys can see this, right?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. You have to be present to win, but let me know if you are not in here, and I will add you to the list.
Yeah, we have Alicia's in here.
Mike.
Dave's in here. Brian is not, so we'll take Brian out.
All right, Brian's definitely not. Okay.
Nope, Mike is in here. I don't see.
How about this? I'll spin it, and if you're not here, we spin again, because then we get to spin it. It's more fun.
Okay, there you go.
All right, I'm gonna spin it. Here we go. Oh, it makes a sound too. Oh, almost, Michael. Is Kumar here?
He is not.
No.
All right.
Spin again.
Remove. What? Again?
Yep.
All right. Here we go. Who's gonna win? Oh, Michael.
He's here.
I see Mike is here. Congratulations, Michael. We will be in touch with you to schedule the time to do that external scan with you. I don't know if there's anything else. Are we all done, Dan? Anyone else got any more questions? I'm gonna miss you guys. This was fun. Rozzy and Pam both, looks like you guys still have your hand raised. I don't know if that was because you're excited for the wheel or, oh, okay, never mind. Oh, Pam has her hand. Nope. Okay. All right. I think we're done. Thank you guys again. Please reach out with any questions, or if you're interested in doing an assessment, we're happy to talk about that.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Thanks everyone. Absolutely, Pam. Have a good day.
Have a great day.